My name is Danny Le. I am a librarian here at Santa Clara City Library. Thank you for joining us for our, volunteer tax income assistance informational session here. I know in the past we've had tax assistance, or AKA VITA, at the library, but due to the last recent years with COVID and also that the limitations that we have with the in-person programming, we're unable to currently have this program available at the library. However, this session is to give you and anybody else who might be watching later options in the Bay Area or also around the South Bay Area that it will give you places to go and also available options that you might want to do on your own online on different websites and such. But I will let our United Way Bay Area representative explain that further. But if you do have questions throughout the session, please put it in the chat or use the Q&A function in Zoom. We will try to get to these questions at the end of the session and answer them the best we can. But until then, we will wait to answer them at the end. But if you do have them, please put them in the chat. Without further ado, will let our representative take it away.
All right, thanks, Danny. And so let me just go ahead and jump right in here. So my name is Geisha Graves. I do work for United Way Bay Area. I actually started with United Way simply just as a tax volunteer myself 12 years ago. And currently I serve as staff supporting all of our tax sites across the Bay Area. So happy to be here. I just want to give a little bit of background about United Way's role in this tax work locally. So UWBA organizes this huge coalition of Bay Area organizations that provide free tax prep services to households earning less than $58,000 a year. And a number of organizations partner with us, the IRS, churches, nonprofits, local libraries, schools, to really scale out this work across the Bay Area region. And it really is very much a Bay Area wide effort. We do operate in all 8 counties, including Santa Clara County where you are, and have many tax sites in these counties. So this work that we do, providing free tax preparation services to community members who are within this income limit, is important for several reasons. The first reason is that the tax preparation itself is free, and the average cost of a tax return that might be prepared by a paid preparer may cost on average $250 to $300, and we're helping really to save the taxpayer on those tax prep fees. But more than that, our volunteers are really trained to help folks that are eligible to claim credits that they may in fact qualify for. Credits like the earned income tax credit, the child tax credit, the recovery rebate credit, which is also known as the missing stimulus amount if they hadn't received the stimulus in the previous year, and other credits. And so our volunteers are really helping to make a difference by helping folks through the process of preparing their tax returns, which really is a process that is complicated and overwhelming to many folks, no matter the age or sort of stage in life that you are in. So our volunteers try to help to make it a little bit more easier for folks to file their taxes. So more important than ever really is the earned income tax credit in the California, the state version of the earned income tax credit in particular. You know, credits like these help to put money back into the pockets of these working families, and they can be hundreds, even thousands of dollars back for a family that might be sort of in the low to middle income range. But beyond that, there have been so many changes over the past couple of years to the tax law, and that means more benefits actually to working families. Things like the federal and state stimulus that had come out, as well as the advanced child tax credit. So volunteers are really helping folks to claim these credits and navigate the changes in the tax law that have occurred. So what might you see out there locally? There are several ways that tax sites are participating and helping folks out in sort of our our world where we are existing with COVID. And so a traditional tax site where is a site where you may see someone engaging with you one-on-one in person. And so the services are provided face-to-face. You may come in for an appointment, or the site might be a walk-in site where you're coming in and the tax preparer is sitting across from you or at the same table as you, and they're working on their tax return, the tax return for you over the course of an hour or so. And here I have the 6 feet distance, in a socially distanced, safe way. And so this is a traditional sort of site where the services are held in person, face to face. Now, not all sites have this type of model, this type of service in person. There is also sort of a service called Valet VITA, where someone may come in, a taxpayer may come into the site, and that person may have the option to instead drop off their documents so that the tax team can, over the course of the week, complete the preparation of that return. And so that the taxpayer may come in the following week to pick up their completed return to review it with someone one-on-one. So some sites are using this model as a way to still engage with someone in person, but sort of in a limited capacity, where you're limiting the amount of time that they're spending with you face to face. So that's one model you may see out there. Another popular model is the do-it-yourself model of tax preparation, also known as self-prep. And so a couple ways you might see this out in the field is a site may have an appointment system where you can make an appointment to do your own tax return, and the site in advance sends you a link to the system for where you can prepare your return, both federal and state, for free, as long as you meet the eligibility criteria. And they have also an option for you to join one of their Zoom question and answer sessions, where as you're working on your return, and you may have questions about how to enter things, there will be volunteers on standby to help you with your questions. And so in a Zoom setting, the volunteer might be paired up with you one-on-one to help address your questions in a private breakout room in that event. So some sites are doing it over Zoom. Some sites are providing this sort of assistance in person, where sort of in a spaced out way again, tables are set up, various stations where a taxpayer may sit down and begin to work on their tax return using the site's do-it-yourself software. And the volunteers are sort of roaming around the room, helping taxpayers with their questions as they work through the return and follow the instruction guide provided by the site. So that's another way that folks can get their taxes prepared this year. And the last way is a completely remote way to get your taxes done. It's by going to this website, getyourrefund.org/Bay Area, where you would submit your documents through the cloud and complete the intake documents through the cloud. And that would be transmitted directly to the tax team, who would engage with you back and forth over the phone and via text message and other avenues. It might be over Zoom to complete your tax return, but there would be no in-person, face-to-face engagement at all. Just in a completely remote way, they would help to prepare your return and then review your final return with you. And you'd sign it electronically so they could e-file. So these are just some of the ways that you'll see folks providing services. And I will say that all these different methods of preparing taxes have sort of evolved, where in the past, we really only saw locally this first one, mainly for the most part at most sites, traditional VITA, but just due to the limitations at various sites around COVID and just trying to be careful around that, sort of these other methods have evolved to be methods that were quite successful in the past couple of years. So that's a little bit about the different models of operation. And I think one of the best ways to sort of have you understand how to find a site, maybe to actually just go to the website itself. So I've linked here sclibrary.org/services/other services, and it takes you right to the income tax assistance page. In particular, Danny has put this into the chat box for us. And so if you click on that link, you'll see here, I'm on the Santa Clara City Library website, and to navigate here, it's services here. And then on the left-hand sidebar, this other services section, income tax assistance, this is where I am currently. And so it talks about our website, United Way's website, for finding a tax site specifically, and that's mentioned here. And so I'll go ahead and click on this link, uwba.org/tax-help, and it will take me to our website here, where I'll scroll down and sort of walk you through so that you can hopefully find a tax site that may work for what you are comfortable for. And so I did mention, the different ways you can get your taxes done locally. One of the ways is to do sort of an in-person drop off or get helped in person and sort of have the taxes prepared on the same day. So there's a map below that I will walk us through after I go over the other two steps here. So that's the first way to get your taxes done. The second way is, if you're not comfortable coming in person, you can click on this online tax preparation and file online link, which allows you to get help in a completely remote way, where someone else is preparing your tax return for you, and they're working with you back and forth to make sure they're preparing the return accurately and completely. So you can just click on that link, and where it would bring you would be here to this website, getyourrefund.org/Bay Area, where you could go ahead and get started with completing the intake online. And so it allows you to walk through the system, and I'll click on get started here so you could see if you wanted to go the completely remote option, you could get help from a local tax team in this way. Clicking here on get started, and then it says, welcome to the free service. You can continue on, and the system is going to ask you a series of questions to determine your base eligibility, and hopefully be guided to enter your information and upload your documentation. So that's one way for which you could get help. So that is the online tax preparation method, completely remote, so no in-person engagement. And then here's the last method, which is the do-it-yourself DIY taxes. And this is online, usually for the most part. So there is a link here to make an appointment to get assistance with perhaps doing your tax return yourself. And so we had quite a few people use this method last year, where they clicked on this link and it took them to our appointment book, which is through Eventbrite, and they made an appointment to do their taxes themselves. And the system then sends them an automatic confirmation. And as we lead up to the event, the team sends an email so that you potentially could get started with your tax return if you wanted in advance. And they send the link to the guide that walks you through, as well as a link to the actual software that allows you to do it for free, both federal and state. And the Zoom session that is hosted by United Way is a space for you to, one, work on your tax return on your own, and as questions come up, you can ask the volunteers your questions. Or two, if you have sort of a question that you want to dig into and want to be paired up with one particular volunteer, you can join that Zoom session as well, to have someone go off into a breakout room with you so that you could talk a little bit deeper about your situation and how can you enter that into the software, things like that. So the do-it-yourself is definitely a viable option for getting help with your taxes this year. But let me go ahead and take us back to this in-person tax preparation and drop-off, which really has us look at the map below on our website. So that's this section here where there is a map of various locations across the Bay Area that do tax services, a map here, and then below a list of sites in alphabetical order. But the way I like to use this map is I like to put in you can put in your address, you could put in your zip code. So I put in my zip code here, 95126. This is where the San Jose office is for United Way. And I'll set my radius to something like 10 miles or so. And it shows me a few sites in my general vicinity. And so one way I can see what sites that are out there is to actually just click on the actual site itself, just click on the pin and read a little bit more about it. And so this site in particular is Sacred Heart Community Service. They have some information here about their site, days and hours of operation, who you can contact at that site to make an appointment, things like that. So that's one way to use the map. I also like to use the map by using these various filters. If I'm looking for a particular site that is open on a certain day, I may use the map for that. One other thing I like to do in the map is, if I know the general vicinity of where I would like to get my taxes done, I may actually just zoom in a little bit further and just focus in on a particular area. Like if I live here in South San Jose, I see that there's a South San Jose site here, and I might just really focus on, okay, what are the sites sort of in the South San Jose or like Evergreen area? And so I might then just focus on looking at these pins and taking a look and just clicking on it. And so by clicking on a pin, I can see, okay, what kind of a site is this? This is an appointment specific site. I can see the days and the hours that the site is open. And the first day that they're open is going to be next week on the 9th. And then they'll go up until almost the deadline. And they have the address as well. And that they're an in-person site as well as a drop-off site. So if I want help, I can make an appointment. And so just as an example, I'll go ahead and click on this appointment book, and it will have me go specifically to that specific site. So Pearl Avenue, VITA.eventbrite.com. This is just for a sample location, and it's brought me to their specific appointment book where I can make an appointment and read a little bit more about how their site is run. So that's an example of navigating the sites here using the map. And you can read a little bit further just at a glance about specific sites just by scrolling down the list if you're not sure. But most people actually do find a site by just moving around the map and clicking on different locations to read more details. So that's what I have here about our specific map tool. And one other thing I want to call out is someone was asking me in a previous presentation, what resources might you have for other folks related to like being a foreign student or perhaps needing an ITIN? And so there is a link here at the top of our website that says resources. And if you click on that, I'll just go to those sections here. We do have some specialty tax assistance where you can click on, for example, if you have a need for renewing an ITIN, which is an individual taxpayer identification number. It's a number that folks may have if they want to file their taxes, but they don't have a social security number. And so you could click here and see perhaps a list of locations that may be able to help you in renewing your ITIN or applying for an ITIN in the first place if you want to file taxes, but you don't have a social security number. So this is an example of a resource related to that, a list of locations locally that can help you out. And then if you want to see other resources related to being a foreign student as an example, that just below that ITINs box is a little bit more information for foreign students, how they might be able to get help locally, what sites may be able to help them, things like that. So that's just a little bit about our website. And I'm just going to transition back now to the Santa Clara Public Library website, where, yes, they've mentioned our site, and they've mentioned a few other things. They've called out the specific links on our site that guide you to perhaps getting your taxes done online in a completely remote way, or getting assistance in preparing your own tax return and perhaps attending a Zoom session with assistance for that. There's also links to other IRS or other local resources that can help you out with your taxes, or just in general tax related questions here. So I see IRS information here at the bottom. And that's all I had planned to cover actually today in the presentation. So I'm going to pause here. Are there questions at all in the chat box? And Danny, do you see any questions?
Not yet. So if everybody, I know you, that was a lot of information to gather, but hopefully it was informative. But if you do have specific questions, maybe pertaining to something that was not covered, please go ahead and put it in the chat and we'll do our best to answer it.
Got it. So I'll pause here to see if there are questions.
I've also entered those links in the chat, but if you do visit our website, you can find that once again at the resources button and other resources.
So there was a question, how long do we have so we can file? I'm wondering if you're asking about the tax deadline. And so the tax deadline this year is currently April 18th, 2022. And so if you have a filing requirement and you know you may owe money, this is currently the deadline for you. The IRS hasn't given us any updates about whether or not that deadline will be extended. So unless you hear or see news on the IRS website about the deadline changing, I would say the deadline currently is going to be April 18th, 2022. Yeah.
Thank you, Christine, for that question. Anybody else with any other questions? Now, this is for you. How busy it might it get during tax season, during these sites? What can we let our patrons and listeners know how soon they should take care of this business?
Well, I will say the tax sites are just generally very busy. And I would say, especially in this particular year, and really in the past couple of years, when due to COVID restrictions, we haven't been able to be at as many sites as before. The tax sites in-person services have been especially hit very hard. So the sites are planning to be very busy. And so I would just plan for that if you do intend to go in person. And if you are going in person and would sort of like to be guaranteed to be helped, I would target looking for an appointment site specifically. That way you can make a designated appointment where you may be able to either get help same day services. And so they might be having you make an appointment to be able to be in the same room with you for a certain amount of time, for an hour or so that they have time to prepare your return. The other option is perhaps making an appointment to have your tax documents dropped off. So that way you may be able to pick up your completed return and review it with the team the following week. So the tax sites plan to be busy. Certainly if you feel comfortable trying the online options, those options have a greater capacity than the in-person options, which are really just limited only due to space limitations that the site has provided. So we might be working in a normal space that we might have been in the past in a community room in the library, but just due to space limitations at the library and the restrictions around COVID, there has to be greater spacing among people. And so that limits the number of tax preparers that have been allowed to be in the room along with their taxpayer. So just to be mindful of that, and that everyone that you'll see at the sites is a volunteer. So like I said, I started 12 years ago in the program as a volunteer, and they go through a lot of training and certification through the IRS, and really just in order to help taxpayers with their tax returns, which have become more complicated over the past couple years. So to just be gracious towards your volunteers, they're doing the best they can, certainly to help you out. So does that help with your question, Danny?
Yeah, excellent. I'm just helping along while people prepare their own questions. Once again, if you do have a question, put it in the chat. I might follow up with this. So what is a common mistake in terms of paperwork that folks tend to forget? So what would people need to bring, just to make sure they are prepared to come with everything ready to go?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's a common thing that people forget to bring,
Right.
but here in this, I just clicked on this get prepped for tax prep, just the checklist of things to bring. But if I click on it, it does mention a few items to bring. It's quite a bit. Just your photo ID of each adult that will be on the tax return. The volunteers are required to verify Social Security card for everyone on the return. Just all your tax documents related to income. So if that's W-2s or if you had various 1099s, you'll need to bring those. You may have health coverage information because that is still required for the state of California. There isn't a penalty on the federal side, but there is on the state side. So you'll need to provide that, and especially this information here. If you are getting a refund and would like it directly deposited to your account, important to have your checking account number, your savings account, or both, as well as your routing number. So that way that information can be put on your tax return. So you'll get that refund a little bit faster than you waiting for a paper check. So I would say a lot of people do tend to forget this particular item, the information about their account. And they may actually also forget this item here, which is the Social Security card for those on the tax return. And this is an item that the IRS requires the teams to look at. So it is an item everyone is required to bring.
Excellent. Hassan, I see you are raising your hand. Could you possibly put your question in the chat? Oh, I see. Or actually, there's several now in the chat. So Hassan, go ahead and put your question in the chat while I read out these next questions. Myung says, I have not filed the income tax of 2020. Where can I find records of my income?
So that's a good question. If you need to find what your income was in a previous year and you haven't filed your tax return in that year, you'll need to acquire the W-2s or income documents you had from your previous employer, or you can actually look up and request a transcript from the IRS to find out that income information, because you'll definitely need that income information in order for any tax site to be able to help you with preparing any previous year tax return for you. So definitely either reach out to your employer with that information about your income and have them send you your W-2 because maybe you lost it, or go ahead and go straight to the IRS and request a transcript of your previous income information from a previous year so that they can send along whatever they might have on file for you.
And thank you, Hillary. I know last few years have been hard in terms of providing a kind of a seamless service, but I'm grateful for all the work that VITA does, and in the partnership they continue to do with libraries and other institutions to provide the service. Um, all right, I see a question here for Jit. Having become a U.S. citizen, recently father-in-law, I'm sure, assuming your father-in-law passed away, getting some money he had in the bank as inheritance from India. How do I include this in my tax return? Do I need to get any proof from a bank CPA, etc.?
So this is a very specific
Mhm.
question. We usually don't answer
Yeah.
specific individualized tax-related questions in the chat, but I will suggest that if you do have questions and you're unsure if you may be eligible for help from a tax site, that I'll just flip back to my slide here, my very last slide, which is if you have any questions, you can email actually the team and someone may be able to get back to you about whether or not a tax return like this may be in scope for the VITA program for any of the local tax sites to handle. So I would suggest you just email eks@utbb.org with your situation, and we can see if that's someone that situation, someone on the team will investigate to see if that's something that's in scope for the program.
All right, awesome. That would probably answer a lot of personal questions as well. Um, if any other last questions, please put it in the chat. Otherwise, I definitely suggest saving these web links in your bookmarks, and also doing this as early as possible and getting all your paperwork together. April 18th might seem far off, but as we know, things can move pretty quickly. So the sooner the better.
Yes, definitely suggest getting your taxes done sooner rather than later. But at the tax sites, we sometimes see a lot of people come in February, and then at some sites, services may taper off in March, and then we see a huge spike in April of people filing before the deadline. So if you're looking to go to a site in person, I encourage you to try to make that appointment sooner rather than later, or to visit a site if it's a walk-in site earlier in the season. And if you can't visit a site in person, definitely encourage you to try to get help online, and that might be doing the completely remote option or getting assistance with the self-preparation option. These two options definitely have greater capacity. These online options have greater capacity than the in-person options, which are fairly limited, mainly because of the space limitations.
All right, and I see Hassan, that question might be once again pertaining to a personal matter. So please maybe direct your question to the email right on the screen. There we go. Christine, I hope you can see the email there. Or are you asking about our presenter's email? Just answer in the chat. Nung, how can we watch this presentation again? We will be posting this video back on our library's YouTube channel, so the Santa Clara City Library website. However, I'll also link this video in the page. So later this week, I'll be placing the video probably on the top of this page right here. So we'll let you know probably through social media and also our website, but I would give it a day or two until we post a video again. So yes, the question, Hassan, like I said, that is a more of a personal question. I don't know if you can answer it, but he's saying, go on. Yeah.
Hassan's question may be, it looks like he paid Agent O'Rourke last year and still got a refund. And so he's asking about the DIY. And so the DIY software will allow folks who are eligible to prepare their tax returns, both federal and state, for free, both for free, not just the federal for free. And so you could make an appointment here and the team would send you a link to that software, usually just a few days before the Zoom event begins. You just have to meet the requirements here for the use of the system. And so the limitation of the software is you have to make less 73K or less. And this income limit is actually a little bit higher. The IRS set this income limit a little bit higher than the traditional face-to-face VITA services, just because this is self-preparation. So I think they were trying to give people just a little bit of leeway there. If they were preparing their own return, the income limit was just a little higher here. So if you meet sort of this requirement, you'll be able to prepare your own tax return for free, both federal, state, in that software. So hopefully that addresses your question.
All right, we have time for maybe one or two more questions if there is any left from the audience. But once again, we will be having this video located on our website. And please utilize the tools. Check out all the links and options that might pertain to you. There's definitely plenty, but like we said, sooner or better you take care of this. You won't have to deal with people who are booking left and right, and the wait can probably be long. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, you'd like to close out with any last thoughts or words?
Sure. Just thank you so much for attending tonight's presentation. And again, if you do have any questions, feel free to email the team here at eks@uwba.org. You can email us if you're not sure if you might qualify for the service, or you're not sure about a particular location and you may need some help finding a site. I did show you the map, but if you're not sure, you can always email us as well, or you can email us to determine if your situation fits within the scope of what our tax teams have been trained to do. So feel free to reach out if you do have any questions, and perhaps we'll see you at one of our tax sites.
Thank you so much for giving us so much great information, and thank you everybody for tuning in. Please share this with everybody out there who might qualify, and let them know that there are options out there and people willing to help. So hope you all have a great evening, and we hope to see you soon at the library or at tax season for sure. Take care.